Welcome back, Coven. We're on our second episode of our podcast.
Yep, welcome back to Salem's Ghostly Coven. Guys, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you guys get notified every time we post a video.
So sit back, relax, grab yourself a snack, and enjoy the next episode.
Okay, the haunted location of the week this week we got is the infamous Sallie house. Located in Atchison, Kansas, the Sallie house is the most haunted location in the state of Kansas. And legend says it was home to a local doctor. Okay. One day, a frantic mom showed up with her daughter, and the child was suffering from severe abdominal pain. The doctor quickly diagnosed it as appendicitis. Knowing he could not delay surgery, he began cutting the small Sallie before the anesthesia could take effect, which led to poor little Sallie's death. In 1993, the house was rented to a young couple, and it wasn't long at all until horrifying occurrences began happening. But the occurrences only started happening to the husband, nothing to the wife, and nothing to their child. So that was like really weird why it was just going after him. Their dog began growling at nothing. Fires began breaking out in the house randomly. So the stove would come on, fire would start on the stove, just random stuff like that happening. The sinister attacks, like I said, really went after the husband, and he began seeing scratches appearing on his body.
You're talking about the doctor, right?
No. This was the couple that moved in 1993.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, yeah. He also even seen, like, if he would get close to an item, it would move. So, like, things were moving away from him. Like, really weird and odd things began happening. They started hearing unexplained voices. Candles would light themselves inside the house. And the TV and radio would turn on by itself. Even their babies' toys would begin playing by themselves. So he eventually ended up having a dream about the so-called little girl Sallie. And when he awoke, he drew a picture of her. He literally recorded and documented all their paranormal experiences. And it ended up becoming up on a television show back in the early 2000s where they literally documented scratches appearing on his body. So nobody really knows why she was targeting him. But since then, people claim she does not like men, or what is so-called Sallie.
I was going to say the same thing, because if she died and the doctor and them aren't there no more, she's going to the next best
retaliate, yeah. But they eventually they discovered there had been a pentagram carved into the floor of the basement, and they actually tried to get rid of it by painting over it and burning it. So I don't know how good of an idea that would have been to burn said pentagram in the basement. But it eventually became so bad that the family fled and they got out of the house immediately. And the house is now open for paranormal investigations. And it is said Sallie is still supposed to be there, but a lot of people believe Sallie is not a little girl at all, but something more malevolent. And they say doors open and slam shut on their own. People still hear voices. Apparitions are seen. And yeah, we're hearing all kinds of weird stuff. And
I was going to say, the candles came on.
No, door's closed.
See, it's weird. Every time we start this, talking about something that could not be what it really seems to be, is candles start coming on, weird stuff starts happening.
In the Sallie house, there is another kid spirit in that house, and everyone claims that they see or hear, and it's of a little boy. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where that little boy plays at, but I also don't think that Sallie is this little girl that they have portrayed her to be for so long. I think they have pinned it on the little girl who died there, but it has I think it's almost like a poltergeist. Like it has
Yeah.
been manifested into that house, and it's like so overly talked about and so negatively talked about that it's just like manifested into something so bad and evil that it's now its own entity. But they keep calling it Sallie because they think it's the little girl. But
Yeah.
Don't they say there was a portal?
Well, they think
that
that's
house
where
too?
they think that in the basement where that pentagram was an open portal.
Okay, that's probably.
But they also, a lot of people believe that before, excuse me, the young family moved in there, that there was actually like these devil worshippers that had invaded and that, lived in the house and would perform rituals in the basement. Don't know how true that is. That's just kind of speculation. But yeah, 100% I believe like Sallie's not this little girl. I mean, it's kind of reminds me of like a Whisper Estate thing. I think something was conjured and manifested there, but then it turned into,
something bigger than
yeah.
the actual
But
story.
then also, what is the biggest thing we've always heard, that demonic forces or stuff like that will portray itself as a child to lure. Zach Baggins with Ghost Adventures actually went there, and he had the young couple. That's the first time they had ever been back in the house since they fled. And instantly, as soon as the husband had went in, scratching already started back appearing on his body. And they had the camera on him the whole time, so it's not like a trick of the eye or anything. So, yeah. The shout out of the week goes to Sarah and Rusty Hayes on our Facebook page. They have had a 5-week streak with our posts, so thank you.
Thank you. That's
you.
awesome. Thank you for supporting us.
Yes, we greatly appreciate it. Let's go ahead and move into the cryptid of the week. So the cryptid we got this week is the infamous Mothman. Okay.
I don't know much about the Mothman. I've heard stories and stuff, but
Yeah.
I've
It's
seen
kind
a
of
statue.
it's kind of wild that this whole town just kind of like, I don't know, he's kind of like the town's mascot at this point. Like it's especially for the legend surrounding him, it's very odd. So commonly seen in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, according to legend, the Mothman is a black 10-foot tall creature with wings and red eyes. Yeah.
Could you imagine 10 foot? Like, just take a minute and think about that. You see someone that's like 6 foot, and you're like, dang, they're pretty tall.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's kind of like a Jeepers Creepers. Like, that's my first thought.
I was thinking like a fly, a big 10-foot fly with eyes coming
Well, they
down.
say, yeah, well, it kind of could be.
I mean, Mothman, think about it.
So the first sighting of Mothman actually happened in 1966 when 2 grave diggers saw a large figure flying over them while they were digging a grave. Shortly after that, residents claimed they saw the Mothman while driving at night. Yeah. Others reported to the local newspaper they seen it in the TNT area. So they have like this like explosives area.
Okay.
Then, it's kind of like a bunker of the town that's for their explosives and where they keep their TNT. And he has been, that's like they say that's the Mothman's
Like his hiding spot or something?
his area that he dwells in.
Gotcha.
In December 15th, 1967, locals said they saw the Mothman sitting on top of the Silver Bridge. Shortly after this, the sighting at the bridge collapsed, killing 46 people.
Oh my God.
So the Mothman has been allegedly sighted at other locations where tragedy is soon to follow. So they say now that if you see him, that is a sign that... What was that?
I have no idea.
Oh my gosh. They said if you were to see him, that means like it's a bad omen.
If you see the Mothman.
Yeah. A lot of people claim that the Mothman is evil, and like I said, a sighting is considered bad luck. Others speculate the Mothman can see the future, and the sightings are actually him warning people. So it's kind of like if you see him, that's kind of like your warning of him telling you. Point Pleasant has, like we said, embraced the Mothman, erecting a statue in his honor. They have shops and even stores and restaurants based off the Mothman. They even have a Mothman festival
it's like they're like not really worshiping, but like
they've kind of just
said,
embraced them, you know, like Point Pleasant has become a major tourist attraction due to the Mothman.
I feel like I need to go to West Virginia just to see this for myself.
Right.
I'd like to go do that. I'd like to go see. Maybe that should be a field trip.
Do you want to get into the scary stories of the week?
So it says, days following my dad's funeral in February of 1992, a few unexplainable things happened in our home. While sitting in the living room one evening, our sink in the bathroom came on full force. It was the type of faucet you had to lift where you had to lift the handle. The handle was really tight, so you had to use force when turning it on. The second thing was coming home one evening. I started to turn the doorknob, and it turned in my hand like someone was opening the door from the other side. When I walked in, no one was there. The third thing is I had made my parents a ceramic clock. I noticed it would work occasionally and then stopped again. One night I said, "Dad, if this is you, make the clock work." It then started running. The next day, I was going to paint the living room and was taking everything off the walls. The clock had not only been shut off, but there were no batteries in it.
Yeah, that's freaky.
Yeah. Especially considering there was no batteries and it just happened to work here and there. It's here. But yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, that is very, like, freaky and weird.
But it's kind of awesome, though, that she would ask if it was her dad, knowing that maybe her dad was still watching over her, too.
Yeah. You have another one?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the next one is from a friend of mine. Her name is Amy. She said, "I grew up in a house on a farm in the middle of pretty much nowhere. My house and the land that surrounded it always gave me a weird vibe. Even at a very young age and long before I took any interest in the paranormal. My mom and dad's room was at the end of the hall and my room was on the opposite end and towards the living room. The house was built in the 1980s and had a tragic past. A man had offed his wife on the property over a custody dispute. This takes place in the late fall and early winter when I was roughly 9 or 10 years old. Both my parents worked early in the morning. My dad left before my mom, roughly about 4:30 a.m. Before he would leave, my dad would always turn on the hallway light to check on us kids, and sometimes, if I was woken up by the light, I'd hear him tell me he loved me, and then he'd leave. This morning, I remember I had been woken up by the sound of our dogs barking and making commotion. A couple of the horses had gotten out, so my parents were awake and trying to wrangle them back inside the gates. It was roughly around 3:30 a.m. at this point. I remember looking at the alarm clock in my room when I heard it and saw the door creak open and a very tall, shadowy figure with what appeared to be a long trench coat and a wide-brimmed hat appeared in my doorway. An uneasy feeling washed over me, but I was so young that I never really understood that too much until I got much older. This thing had no discernible features, nothing that I could make out anyhow. It stood there for what felt like an eternity, but was probably a minute or less, and as quickly as it had come, it vanished. I heard my mom come back in the house, quietly hushing our dogs. I asked my mom shortly after where my dad was, and if the horses were okay. I'd said I'd seen Dad in the house and in my doorway. She assured me that they had been outside for quite some time, wrangling the horses into the gate, and my dad was taking them to the stable. That there was no way it was my dad in my doorway because he was outside because he was outside with her. She said, over 20 years have passed and I can still see that figure and the feeling I felt at the moment like it was yesterday. Now that I've grown up and have had more paranormal encounters since then, I've fallen deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole and sincerely believe I saw the Hat Man. And if it wasn't him, it definitely was something that did not have the best of intentions. I remember when I saw a shadow man in my doorway. I was terrified because I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But I didn't feel a sense of uneasiness, as in, like, I didn't feel like it was there to harm me, but it was definitely there to freak me out. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if I saw something, I'd be able to be like, oh, this is some bad vibes.
Right.
Yeah. I'll be the one to walk up to it and then be like, oh, it's fine. And then, like,
that's what she says.
And then just suck me in, like, Linda came like, how would you sound?
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get into our last story of the week. And this is from Lindsay Cole on YouTube. Lindsay says, this is my scary story. When I was roughly 12 years old, my parents bought a new house, not knowing a man had took his own life in the home. After a little time, there was odd things began happening. The TV would turn on and off by itself. The cabinet doors would open on their own. Strange noises could be heard in the basement. My dad would go check every time we heard something, thinking there was an animal getting inside, but would never found anything. One day, while my parents were gone and I was home alone, I began hearing noises coming from the basement. I decided to brave it and go open the basement door. I tiptoed to the basement door and opened it slowly. When I looked down the steps, there at the bottom stood a figure of a man. I could see through him. His body was like a black mist. When he turned around, all I could see was a white, pale face. I slammed the basement door and ran to my room. After I told my parents what I saw, my mother started looking into our property, and that's when we found out that the man had took his own life in our basement. We moved shortly after.
Girl, first of all, why would you go to the basement by yourself?
Second of all, you're incredibly brave. I could never do that. Never.
No way.
I feel like that's what I kind of remember, like when me and Damon was at Whisper Estate and we was like shutting all the doors and everything, and we just got the horrible vibe. It was our first time ever being there, and me and him went to the basement and just kind of peered down there, and we could hear boom, 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 boom running up the steps. That was the most...
That basement's kind of creepy.
Oh my God, it was horrible.
I think any and every basement is creepy as heck. I don't care if it's a beautiful, fully finished basement. If I open the door and it's dark, ain't no way I'm walking down those steps.
Well, you notice too, like at Randolph County, the basement.
That basement
it was
is beyond
horrible. Out of all the basements, that one scares me the most.
Yeah, yes. It's like you open the door and your heart just falls straight to your butt.
It's huge. Like, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
And it's got freaking shackles on the walls.
Could you just imagine, like, okay, the building... Actually, the building is in the shape of an upside-down cross, if you look at an aerial shot of it. So just imagine the basement of this place.
Yeah. It's dark.
Yeah, even in the daylight, that basement is pitch black.
And I walked down there by myself to make sure we didn't have any equipment. And I walked on the side where Ida's room is in the kitchen, but on the other side where the morgue was, I was like, nope.
The men's side?
Yeah. Not happening.
Yeah, ain't no way I could drive by myself. That basement's for. We all agree on that basement. No.
Yeah, it's just disgusting down there. And I kept having the fear we was going to hear an old woman go, hello, in the basement.
Or push the dinner bell buzzer.
I would have died. I would have literally died if I would have heard, hello.
I would have too. Come get your
dinner's
pop.
Done. No. Okay, guys, this is our last segment. We ready?
We're ready. Let's go for it.
Okay, this is the serial killer of the week. This week, we got Lavinia Fisher. The first ever female serial killer. She was born in 1793 in Charleston, South Carolina. Okay. Lavinia and her husband, John, owned a hotel they called the 6 Mile Wayfarer House. So they would take in people off the street, give them a room to rent. So kind of like a Airbnb in a way. but it's like a little hotel area. Here, Lavinia would invite lone travelers to the hotel. Ultimately, Lavinia and John would kill the guest and rob them. They would poison them with oleander tea. She would show them to their rooms. When they would fall asleep, John would hit a trap door that was under the bed of this hotel, and it would allow the victim to fall into the basement. And this is where they would beat them to death and then rob them. Eventually, word got around. Townspeople were coming up missing, so a group of towns, like a little militia in their own town, began doing their own investigation. It said they found over 100 bodies in this basement. And Lavinia and her husband were sent eventually to the Charleston jail. I mean, a lot more had happened where they got caught, and they were sent to the Charleston jail. They eventually escaped, but was recaptured. And this time they were sent to death. And back in this time, death meant hanging. So when it came time for Lavinia's execution, she had a message. And these are the last words Lavinia ever spoke before she was, okay? If you have a message for the devil, tell me now, for I shall be seeing him soon. Could you imagine?
She's crazy.
Like, she knew where she was going.
Yeah, I mean, she
Now I'm
knew.
gonna have to look in my bed when I run a hotel room to make sure there's no trap door.
Yeah, now I think of that. But the weird thing about it is, like, I think you can do, I'm pretty sure you can do paranormal investigations at the old Charleston
Really?
jail. Yes.
That would be kind of awesome to go to.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if we got the name Lavinia, I'd be like, no! She's here to beat us and steal our stuff.
Well, there is the episode of Ghost Adventures where they were talking on the spirit box and Lavinia was talking through them.
For real.
And yeah, and Zach says, Lavinia, in your message, you said, if you have, like in your, what you said, they go, if you have a message for the, and then on the spirit box comes up and it says, the devil. So yeah.
She got what she deserves, BS me.
Yeah.
And her husband.
She was, but could you imagine? It's late 17, well, actually it's early 1800s, and they're just going around killing people. Like it was
Nothing.
yeah, just like whatever. Like,
Could you
you're by
imagine?
yourself.
Could you imagine the officer or the people that went down to the basement to find, and the people that found those bodies? I mean, if you think about it, 100 people is a big group of people, but 100 dead bodies in one small space.
I couldn't imagine.
and just
I bet they
think-
were just stacked.
Oh yeah, but also just imagine
smell.
the smell because you're in South Carolina in the heat, in, you know, at this time,
In an enclosed basement.
in a closed basement.
And you know it's wet and damp down there.
Unless
they-
somehow they knew how to, get rid of that smell and they could smell it.
No, I don't.
That's just gross.
I don't think there was any.
Before they
getting
even
rid of
got to
that.
their room, they were already pretty much passed out. So I'm like, with that tea, have a cup of tea before your room's ready. We'll take you back to your room, and that's it. That's all you
They
remember.
was already starting to feel like crap because they're being poisoned. So they really couldn't fight back. So when the trap door lowers, they fall down in there. Then there he is down there
Yeah, I just
to
couldn't
beat
imagine.
him.
That just unlocked a fear for me.
Well, yeah,
And
like I said, we're going to look for some trap doors when we go to these places we stay
I'm gonna be
at.
asking questions to every.
Can I see your
hotel.
basement, please?
Yeah.
There ain't no trap doors under your bed, are there?
It's really messed up to think about. Just
Especially that time of year, like back then.
yeah, the time in the world is just
How do two people like that come together and make a bizarre plan like that to be like, hey, let's open a hotel and let's drug, steal, beat, and kill hundreds of people together? And neither one would be like, you know what, that's probably not a good idea.
and no remorse. No remorse whatsoever for the fact that she could sit there and be like, when it came her time, you know, a lot of people, if they had a conscience to to doing this, they would be like,
I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. You know, God forgive me. But no, this woman stood up there and was like, if y'all got a message for the devil, you better tell me now, because I'm getting ready to go see him. Like,
I'm gonna go see my poppy. She was just
Like she was welcoming it. She couldn't wait.
she was just like,
Psycho.
yeah. So, all right, guys, that is going to be it for episode 2 of Salem's Ghostly Coven. Guys, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you guys get notified every time we post a video. And if you would like your scary story read here on the podcast, be sure to email them to us at paranormalcoven13@gmail.com, or you could always send them to us on our Facebook page. I'm Linda.
And I'm Caitlin.
I'm Leva.
And it's been Paranormal Coven, guys. Good night.
Peace out.